Yo and hello everybody, Mike here, baseball collector. It's Wednesday, middle of the week. I got a few cards to show off. I know my content has been lacking, so to speak, but that's mainly because when I'm looking on eBay right now, I'm not finding a whole lot of stuff that I'm wanting to buy because the things that I need for the sets that I'm working on and projects that I'm working on are really expensive at this point. So I have to be very selective and careful and just being a little more patient. So that doesn't do well for creating videos because I just don't have a lot, but I have 4 cards to show off today, which I'll do in just a second. Really excited about this week's episode of Beyond Cardboard because we're going to have a really good time. Pepino Man, Caesar's going to join us on Sunday night. That'll be at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, so looking forward to that. Hope you can join me and Caesar on that fun time that we're going to have. So I know you want to see some cards, so let's get right to it. Hang on just a second. I'll be right back. So here's my first pickup this week so far. And if you were to ask me, Mike, what are you a sucker for? And I would answer, I am a sucker for multi-signed Hall of Fame pieces, especially cards. I just love them because when you have several Hall of Famers on a card, to me it just adds exponentially to the coolness factor of the item. And what's cool about this card is I saw it and I absolutely had to pick it up. I think I paid maybe $35 for this. And I don't have a lot of George Brett autographs. I have a ton of Gaylord Perry autographs, but I don't have a lot of George Brett stuff because his stuff is really expensive. And when I saw this card, I've loved this card since I was a kid, this 84 Fleer that describes the pine tar incident from 1983 in which George Brett in about 3 seconds becomes the maddest human being I've ever seen when he rages out of the dugout after hitting a go-ahead home run against the Yankees. I mean, I remember that incredibly vividly from when I was a kid. He was ballistically pissed. And Billy Martin, you know, charged him with having too much pine tar in his bat. It's funny, I don't know why Gaylord Perry is pictured in this card. I guess because Gaylord Perry was a noted cheater over his career as well as a pitcher, but just a cool card commemorating that incident. And to have them both sign it, the Brett signature is smudged. You can see in the double T of his last name that somebody smudged it at some point in the past, but it doesn't really take away from it. Again, I just think it's a cool piece. And for what I paid, I would normally pay more than that just for a Brett autograph. So I'm not terribly unhappy with it. Of course, I wish it was a perfect signature, but I just think it's a neat piece to have and glad to add it to my collection. The next card I have is a card for my Hall of Fame post-war rookie set, which I am getting down to just the really, really early ones now at this point. This is a 1964 Topps Phil Niekro. He has a 1965 Topps as well in a dual, you know, rookies card like a lot of people did back in the 60s. Topps did that for some reason, having people appear multiple times on multiplayer rookie cards. But this was Phil Niekro's first one. And this is a really good grade for this card. This is a high series card for 64 Topps, so it's incredibly expensive given that Phil Niekro was kind of a mid to lower tier Hall of Famer. This card is shockingly expensive. I mean, I paid $125 for this card. It is an Air Mint 7, which is a really good grade. Just a beautiful card, very crisp, nice corners, slightly off-centered left to right, but other than that, just really clean. Next up is a couple of cards. My last 2 cards to show off today are 2 cards from the 1940 Play Ball Hall of Fame registry that I'm working on. And this one is of Tony Lazzeri, who, of course, was a famous New York Yankee back on Murderers Row in 1927. Played for the Yankees for 12 seasons. This is a 4.5, which is a really good grade for this card. I love, again, how 1940 Play Ball puts nicknames on the bottoms of the cards, and his nickname is Push 'em Up Tony. And the reason he was called Push 'em Up Tony is that the Italian fans basically butchered a translation of hit it out, you know, which is what they would chant for him in Italian, it sounded like, and they ended up calling him Push 'em Up. That apparently sounds something like Hit It Out in Italian. And there you go. That's why he's called Push 'em Up Tony. And again, this is him with the Cubs. He played his last season with the Cubs and then the Giants. He finished in 1939. So ironically, this is kind of a last card for my last card Hall of Fame a little bit too, because this is a 1940 card. What's sad is that Tony Lazzeri died in 1946. He was only 42 years old, so he was younger than I am now, and passed away at a very, very young age. So ironically, getting signatures of him and other things are very, very difficult. And he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1991 by the Veterans Committee. But just a lovely card. 4.5 is a great grade for my 1940 set. And this one's a little bit better even. This is a George Sisler, who was a Hall of Famer, spent his career mainly with the St. Louis Browns, which were a terrible team back then. But George Sisler was an amazing baseball player. Played first base mostly. Just incredible ball player. Hit 420 in 1922, which is just insane. Had another 400 season. He also just had big hits, a lot of hits. In fact, he held the single season record for hits of 257 from 1920 to 2004. And he held the record for 84 years until Ichiro beat him, which is just a long, long time to hold any single season record. Records are made to be broken, and that one took a long time to break, just to show you how amazing Sisler's career was. And Locke Hall of Famer, just an amazing card, great picture here. This is a 5, which is an even better grade, and it's amazing the difference. I'm going to move these over because I'm going to show you the difference between the Sisler and the Lazzeri. If you see them here, how different the color is. The toning of the card is significantly different between the Lazzeri and the Sisler, which, the Lazzeri is a 4.5. The Sisler's just a 5, so it's not like there's a big difference in grade, but there's a big difference in the presentation of these two cards. I'm going to take either one of them and be plenty happy with it, but just so you can see the variance that you can have from these cards. Now, granted, they're 78 years old, so to have any type of clarity on the card is just awesome. Like the Sisler just looks great. It's very clear. But there you go. That's my mail day today. Just a quick 4-card mail day with a little story thrown in there. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button if you did. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll catch you on the next one. Keep collecting.